Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Unstoppable Dad Project. Thank you once again for joining me on the podcast for another week. Appreciate you, as always, taking the time out of your week to listen to the podcast. Before I get into today's episode, as always, have a few favors to ask. Please make sure you are subscribed on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. We are on all of them: Apple, Spotify, Google. You will be able to find this podcast on any podcast platform, so please make sure you're subscribed, and if it allows you to, jump on there and please leave us a 5-star review. By you doing that, it helps me get this podcast out to more people. Being that I am one person doing this podcast now for over 2 years, the only way this continues to grow is with your help. So I am forever grateful for the fact that you guys continue to share this and continue to listen. We also have some social media pages, so at The Unstoppable Dad on Instagram, The Unstoppable Dad Project on Facebook, and there is a free Facebook group attached to our Facebook page, The Unstoppable Dads, which you can jump on and add yourself to. There are a bunch of free resources, free training programs, and all sorts of good stuff that you'll be able to find in there. Plus, you'll also be notified whenever I drop a new podcast episode. So now with that out of the road, let's get into today's topic. So today I'm going to just unpack a little bit a very, very common thread, a very common theme when it comes to people starting any new habit. Now, I've started doing some more in-person training again, just because I felt I wanted to. I quite enjoy in-person training. That doesn't mean I'm stopping the online stuff. It just means I wanted to do some more in-person training. And I've started working with a gentleman who he's now, it will be his second week next week. And he had something come up and he's not able to make the allotted time that we had put in. And as a result, the amount of sessions that he committed to, he's able to do half of that. And then he's getting a little bit concerned because it's only week 2 and he's missing something. Now, the reason that he's missing it is he's got to go and pick up something, and it's just something that's come up and he has to do it on that day just because of that's how it's all fallen into place. And it's got me thinking, and one of the things I said to him is, look, there are always going to be things that are going to come up in life that are going to restrict our ability to do some things that we've committed to doing, especially when it comes to change. And the one thing I've observed over the last 15 odd years of coaching people is probably the biggest difference between people who are able to successfully implement new habits and routines and those that aren't, is their ability to just get back to the plan after something has come up. So after some adversity has hit them. Now, for this man that I'm working with, it is positive adversity. He's going to do something which it just meant logistically it couldn't fit. Now, he could have done a few different things. And a really common thing for people to do when they do set out on a new habit or routine, like they're trying to get to the gym more, they're trying to start working out more, whatever the case might be, would be, if they're in a busy period of their life, tell themselves that they're going to wait until after the busy period dies down in order to get started. Now, I can tell you right now, out of all the people that I've heard that from and all the people that I've coached, it very, very rarely works for people, because once one thing finishes, something else starts up, especially when we have kids, when we have a family, and when we have other human beings that we need to worry about. There will always be something else that comes up. So waiting to start generally isn't the right approach. But starting and then rolling with the punches a little bit is generally a better sign that you are actually ready to implement this change long term. But again, to circle back, the one thing that I've really noticed is the biggest difference between those that succeed long term in any habit change and those that don't is just someone's ability just to get back to the plan after something has come up. And that's what I said to this guy when I was as a coach. I've said, look, this is going to happen. And this isn't just going to be an isolated incident. There are going to be times over the course of us working together where we are going to miss a session. There may be times where we are going to miss a week. Now, I will obviously work with you in order to build out a plan for you while you're away. But for this particular time, he's going to be traveling. There's not really going to be an opportunity for him to do his session. The reason that we're working together in person is we have quite a long and extensive injury history that we've got to take care of. And for me, working in person with somebody who has that is a quicker way for me to get results, because I can give instantaneous feedback to that person around what they need to do from a movement point of view. So I've just said, look, we're just going to miss the session. It's fine. But the thing is, we need to be able to get back to it the next week. And that's fine. Nothing's going to come up the next week. We can get back to the plan and we can start to build that consistency. Now, the biggest thing, and I won't say it's the biggest thing. I keep saying the biggest thing during this episode and during a lot of things. But one of the things that is quite important within that is learning the ability to quiet that negative voice inside our head around, and after the event has passed, around telling yourself that you're not good enough because you missed something, or telling yourself that maybe this isn't the right plan because there's always going to be something to come up. We need to, when we're going through that phase where something has come up, it's caused us to fall off the wagon, or it's caused us to not do what we need to do, we need to be able to objectively stand back and go, all right, what was the reason why I was unable to complete that? And was it a reason, or was it something that I have control over? So in this particular instance, there is a lot of areas and aspects that this gentleman may have control over. However, he's worked out that it is a higher priority for him to complete this task than it is to complete the session. And that's perfectly fine. So then the next week, what we need to make sure we avoid when we're going through this and we're just getting back to it is letting go of the fact that that's happened and then just moving forward from there. So I've done an episode, it was quite a while ago now, where I spoke about drawing a line in the sand and just moving forward from that line. So everything that had happened before that, we need to forget about, because holding on to that and dwelling on that and telling ourselves that we're a failure due to those past events is not serving us moving forward. So we need to make sure that we're able to do that. That's the first thing when it comes to initial habit change, especially when you're in the early stages and maybe you haven't been able to complete what you've set out to do. You need to be able to get into a headspace where it's like, cool, it's happened, let's move forward from it and let's get back to the plan. So that also means in order for you to move forward and get back to it, you do need to make sure that you have a plan. In this particular instance, it's great for an in-person thing because he's showing up to see me, so I can set the plan out for him. So we're going to see each other on this day and on this day at this time every single week. So it's easy for him to just go, yep, I'm just going to show back up for my 2 sessions a week and we're going to continue to move forward with the plan. But if you're doing it on your own, or if you're doing it in a remote setting, let's say we're working together as an online coach, I can still help you set out that plan for yourself. But then you maybe have to work out the logistics. Is this going to be a Monday, Wednesday, Friday training regime? What time of day am I going to do that? But you need to still have that plan set out. And within that plan, you need to make sure that that plan is designed for you. It's set out in a smart way around your life. It's measured, taking into consideration the other important circumstances that are going to come up time and time again. Bottom line is it needs to be a well thought out plan, because if it's well thought out and it's simple, then when these obstacles come up or when these setbacks come up, it's going to make it easier for you just to flick that switch and go, yep, I am back to it the next week. If you make it too complicated for yourself and you do things like try to play catch up. I missed a session this week, and if I've had the goal of doing 3, then I've got to do 4 the week after, and then you don't hit 4, and that session just keeps carrying over forward and forward and forward. You start to create a real mental block for yourself, and you start to feel like you're a failure. You start to feel like this maybe isn't the right path for you, when in reality, it probably is. But what we need to do is, we've just had a setback, which is going to be part of life. We need to accept that this is going to happen and be able to move forward from there. And then probably the last thing when it comes to all of this is, your reason for doing that and your reason for making the change needs to mean something to you. And it needs to be big enough that you are going to be able to move past any excuses that you are going to give to yourself, any obstacles that you are going to put up for yourself mentally, because a lot of what I have seen within people and within my own life when it's come to implementing any change, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's any aspect of your health, whether it's making changes in a business, starting a business, it's all a mental game. Because the physical element of these changes can be worked out from a scheduling point of view, from a physical implementation point of view, can all be worked out if we have the mental side of it in check. And a lot of that mental side of it is going to come down to the understanding of yourself, the true understanding of your own circumstances, having a simplified plan that you can follow through on. And not only that you can follow through on, but you can get back to should hard times come up. And if something is constantly reoccurring, let's say, for example, we're using working out, and I'm not talking about this instance that I started off the podcast with. This is just something that's come up for a few people that I've worked with over the years. Let's say, for example, your goal is to do 3 sessions a week. But consistently over time, you're not able to do those 3 sessions a week, right? But when you look back at it, you're consistently doing 2. Maybe the plan needs to be adjusted to be 2 sessions a week. Now, eventually you may be able to train to do 3, time may open up, but for where you're at right now, there's just too many obstacles in the road. Because in order to stack those small wins, when it comes to implementing change and staying on change, you need to be able to give yourself a tick in the box to tell yourself that you've completed the task you set out to do each week. So if you've set yourself a lofty goal that may not be achievable because there are other things that you've deemed to be a higher priority than that, and that is okay, because that is part of understanding yourself and understanding your circumstances. And that, for a lot of people, is half the battle. But when you've done that and you've understood that there are things that are a higher priority to me right now than going to the gym, working out, or this particular thing I'm looking to change, that doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing it completely. It just means that maybe that 4 sessions a week isn't where I'm at right now. Maybe 3 is a more achievable goal. Maybe even 2 is a more achievable goal. Because 2 is going to be better than 1, which is going to be better than none. Doing something is always going to trump doing nothing. And then by switching that goal, if you're in a negative headspace about the actions that you're taking, by making that little adjustment, you can switch that mentality, because all of a sudden, week in, week out, now you're seeing, oh, I'm doing those 2 sessions I've set out to do, but I'm doing it week after week after week. And then maybe after an 8-week, 12-week period, maybe the time opens up to add back in that 3rd session, and you can keep that momentum going. But if you're constantly going through this process of seeing yourself not hit the goal that you've set out to do, 2 things, you may need to have a long, hard talk to yourself about, hey, like, is this really important to me? And after you've done that, if it is, maybe you need to tighten the shoelaces and just make sure that you get those 3 done. Maybe that's the path that needs to be done. But also, after having that long, hard talk to yourself, you may go, you know what? That 3 is just not achievable for me right now. but 2 is. And then by switching that, you can start to build that confidence in yourself because you're completing the task that you've set out to do. You're not missing out. You're not shortchanging by 30% on each of the tasks that you've done each week. And then by building that confidence back up, you're able to feel better about the activity that you're doing. You're able to feel better about yourself because you're following through on what you've said you're going to do. So sometimes the plan does need adjusting because we sometimes, I know, I am very, very guilty of it. I put sometimes too higher expectations on myself in the moment and I don't understand the whole picture. I isolate that activity and it's like, why isn't this working? This should be working. And yes, there is sometimes where I need to just go, you know what, like, just get to it, Matt. Like, you're avoiding doing it for whatever reason. And that's another episode where we can completely unpack why we avoid particular things that we should be doing. But if we're talking about it here, we're talking about this short-term change and getting started on something. Sometimes the plan will need to change. But the biggest difference between those who have success with habit change in the initial stages that I've observed are those that are able to get back to the plan quickly after they have been faced with some obstacles or some adversity. Because the longer it takes you to get back to that plan, the more you're going to get in your own head and the bigger task it is going to seem to get back to it. We're going to create this story and this narrative around the thing that we need to get back to that is going to feel like it's an insurmountable thing when it's actually not. We actually just need to step back into the activity that we're doing and we need to get started and we need to get moving forward. So if consistency for you has been something that you feel you've struggled with in some area or aspect of your life, have a look at the circumstances in which it's happened. Very often, some people will put it down to the plan or the implementation, the vehicle that they're using to try and get back to it. And oftentimes it's not. There may be minor tweaks and changes that need to be made within the plan, but oftentimes it's because they get so stuck in their own head and they've been unable to just get back to it because they felt guilty about missing a session, missing a week, missing a month. It's going to happen from time to time. It's part of life. Your ability to be able to create that long-term change that maybe you're looking for is always, always, always going to be set around your ability to get back to the thing that you need to do after you've hit a roadblock and hit some obstacles. If you've struggled with that and you'd like some help getting back on track, you can book in a time for a call with me. It's a 45-minute free coaching call. I give 5 away a month. And if you would like to chat, you can book in a time there. Other than that, follow along on the socials. Give us a subscribe on the podcast. Hopefully you got some value out of that. But again, just to finish off the topic for this podcast, if you've found it hard to implement change and there is something that is important to you to implement back into your life and you constantly feel like you're getting hit with roadblocks, you need to learn the ability to draw a line in the sand, forget about the past and move forward. Because roadblocks, obstacles are going to be part of life. You are going to miss sessions. You are going to miss weeks. Your ability to succeed in that is going to be defined by your ability to be able to get back to the task and your ability to get back to the plan you've set out for yourself. So good luck. If you need help, as always, reach out. You can book in a time for chat. You can even send me a message on the socials. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Take care. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.